Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we're speaking with Elizabeth Heller in conjunction with her Cerulean Arts Collective Exhibition, which is on view now through April 6th. Hello, Liz.
Hi, Mike. I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak about my work and for this show. I'm a graduate of the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts and of Philadelphia Community College in Fine Art before I went to the Academy. And my work has been in numerous local and some national exhibitions at the Woodmere Art Museum, the State Museum of Pennsylvania, the Southern Alleghenies Museum of Art, the Wharton Esherick Museum, and I'm very happily at Cerulean Arts Gallery. Um, so we're beginning with some still lifes I've done, which are done completely from life, usually with flowers from my garden. I seek to understand the geometry of flowers. I think they're very beautiful constructions and they fade. So oftentimes they're replaced with new individuals that look similar. So it takes a long time and it's difficult, but it's really rewarding. This one is called Still Life with Columbines. I grow several colors of them in the spring. So this is a spring painting.
Now we're heading into the gallery itself.
So the first three paintings here on the wall together, they they're very different in mood, in my opinion. The first one is called Still Life with Red Carnations, and the background was a shawl that I received as a gift, which had silver applique, like printed on silver, a design, and then some purple and gold. And it was extremely difficult to paint. It was like a really challenging. And then the carnations themselves were difficult, and I enjoyed that part of it too. But it just overall, I feel like it has a unity from the difficult seeing, which I really love to do, to go in and try to describe things, not mimic them, but kind of get the feeling of how they move and how they exist in space. Um, so that painting I feel is an expression of that difficult seeing that I love. And
So,
the
Liz, do
next,
you
yeah,
strictly paint from observation?
um, there are two paintings in the show. One painting is not strictly from observation. So out of 13 paintings, one is the only one that I had to, for weather reasons, work on inside. For example, the one of the other landscapes, if I have faint wires, then I'll take them inside because I can't do a good job on the wires out with some wind. But other than that, everything in the show is completely from observation.
Mm.
So this was a coffee cup that I thought looked great with these wildflowers. And the, the the point of the painting, kind of abstractly, is the shapes, the way that it's on a piece of gessoed paper that has a lavender ground. And I feel as though I'm really interested in combining abstract composition with this close observation. And the yellow flowers are kind of reaching to the right. They're sort of having a hidden movement. And that is part of what I'm trying to express, is that controlled hidden movement that has energy in it, that makes the painting have like a tension. So that painting I felt had that successfully together. And then this painting I just did this summer. My brother Peter is a dahlia expert as a hobby, and he gives me tubers, and then I grow them, and they're just wonderful. So I put a few of the tubers from Peter in a vase, and I did have to replace some over and over, and just tried to make it be about the geometry and the simplicity. And then the red fabric at the bottom is sort of a foil for the complexity of the dahlias. So I would like to do that, combine the abstraction of things with close observation. So this one's called Peter's Dahlias.
Your show also has sculpture.
Yes, I studied sculpture at the academy as well as some painting. And so I work from life with these models who are very, very, stoic and brave. And this one is called Standing Man. It was an older man who was a musician, and he was very brave. This is actually a very difficult pose. Most of the weight is on one leg, and the other foot was propped up on a little support. And he just kept such, stoic dignity throughout. It's cast hard plaster with a patina, which I do in various ways. And then it has a small piece of mahogany that he's standing on. So it's just called Standing Man.
So when you say cast, you mean make a mold and
Well,
cast?
I model from life in usually red clay for figures and then white clay for portraits, if I can have both working at the same time. And then once it's done, then I will make a mold and a negative shape mold, and then, pour the positive and reinforce it with steel rods that are bent to fit the figure, like all thread. So a smaller figure might have 3/8 all thread going from the base up to the head, and then another one for the other leg, and perhaps a smaller diameter for the arms. And that gets laid into the mold, and then that becomes part of the structure of it. And then it gets demolded and finished and patinaed. And I use different things for patina, sometimes shellac, sometimes oil paint over shellac, or casein paint, which is like milk paint, and then you burnish it. And I'll show you another one later on that's like that. Um, just for a moment, I'd like to take a moment to screen share two great sculptures of sculptors I very much admire, and just sort of say what one of them said about sculpture in general. And it does also kind of relate to my painting. So the Wilhelm Lembruck is called Kneeling Woman. And he was a German artist who died right after the end of World War I. And he desperately tried to stay out of military service, and he did, but he didn't last as a person because he was very depressed. But he was a great sculptor. And he said, all art is measure, measure seen against measure, that is all. Therefore, a good sculpture must be handled like a good composition, like an architectural edifice where measure speaks against measure. Therefore, details cannot be ignored, for the detail is the module for greatness. And then he went on to say, sculpture is the essence of things, the essence of nature, that which is eternally human. And this speaks for me about what I would like to do with sculpture. So, and the second picture I'd like to show you is by Charles Despio. It's more intimate and more happy. It's called Paulette. Now, this is called Paulette, and he was a great portrait artist. And the next sculpture you'll see in my show is a portrait that I did. This is plaster with shellac, and it just has such stillness and beauty. And this is kind of a goal for me, to have a portrait speak of the person that it's of, but also have an eternal kind of a beauty. So thank you, Mike. That's that one. And all righty. So we're going to move on. And so this is a portrait of Carol, who's a wonderful model that we have worked with several times in the anatomy, the alumni sculpture group I go to weekly at the Academy. And she just is, she has a great sense of humor, I think, because she often laughs while she's taking a break. And just thought she had such beauty and dignity, and she wore a turban, which I struggled to make out of clay. This was made in white clay, and then I cast it, and then I put white shellac on it, not orange shellac, and then I made an oil paint patina, and then I waxed it and burnished it so that it has sort of a dull sheen, and it was just very fulfilling, and made me happy that I actually finished it because I worked on it for 6 months. And then, so this sculpture is called Felix, and it is of a beautiful transgender individual who modeled for us. And I thought that they had this tremendous dignity and courage to be themselves and to be nude. And I thought how refreshing it was for me as a woman to do a nude sculpture of someone that was not based on someone else's idea of what is desirable, which I, as my long life as a woman artist, I have often railed against the lack of women's images that are purely dignified and not slanted with all the cultural baggage. And you can edit this out if you want, but I really feel very strongly about this, that we are people, that the goal of sculpture is to express a person. And so that's what I want to do. And, this person was very strong and beautiful to me. So that's why I sculpted them. And it took a lot of work, especially the hands. So anyway, so anyway, that's all. So this is a painting of a sculpture I did in aluminum at the sculpture gym called Patti Smith. It was kind of a sand cast. It was really fun. I love going there. And then these are hydrangeas when they just bloom, the first time they bloom in maybe July. And I feel proud of the way that the scarf at the top is sort of expressed in just paint, because it actually follows the pattern of that intricate scarf. But if you look close, it's very just paint. It's not, it's not a rendering, it's an observation. And I really like that part of the painting. Shells are very hard to paint. I really enjoy trying to paint them.
So, Liz, in your artist statement, you mentioned capturing the beauty of the natural world. Can you
Yes,
speak about that a little bit?
sure. Um, there's a feeling I get when I'm looking at things or people, and a lot of times it's like a spiritual um, geometry, and one thing will be pushing against another in a very powerful way, and I will feel that this is something that I could work from, that I could try to express. There might be a darkness in part of it, and there might be a brightness in another part. And that dichotomy is truthful to me, which is a value I have, that what is truthful is worth pursuing. So when I look at these things, I'll get this feeling of like that could work as a painting or that could work as a sculpture. And then I'll work on it for pretty much a very long time. Um, for example, this painting of North Philadelphia I did on site, and I would, I drive through North Philadelphia and I get a feeling from it of, you know, admiration for the people that live there and a tremendous feeling that there need to be more resources for those people. So it's called the unpruned tree because a tree that is left without any care will turn into a demanding shape, a shape that has darkness in it. That's what this shape has to me. I don't know if you feel that, but so that nature of things is what I'm trying to paint, that sort of that cry of things to, both pay attention and also how beautiful the shapes are and the colors there. And there's this little park. And I just, felt like I could paint it. And then painting cars for me is kind of exciting and difficult. So I put that white car in the white van, and just all the geometric shapes of things add up to a complete composition, which is satisfying, I think, to me. And then to the right of that painting is the one painting in the show where I did a lot of it not from life, because it got too cold and it was kind of windy. So I worked on it outside like 7 times. And then I went inside and I worked on it like for 4 weeks, almost every day. And not for, for 3 or 4 hours a day for 4 weeks, because it has so many difficult things about it. But I do like the composition, and I didn't want to give up on it, so I kept going, even though it was not my preferred method. And it's right near where I live, and it's like a block from my house, and I loved that building for a really long time, so it was fun. But you can see like the dark shapes in the foliage to me have that same emotional quality that the shapes in the other painting had. And those churning, dancing shapes are part of what draws me into a subject. Just the vitality of the subject. And also the geometry of the buildings and the distant rooftops, which, in Manayunk, they're really varied in their planes because it's always on a hill. So that's the reasoning of the painting. But then things like those circles on top of the fence, I could not do that on site because I'd have to have a tiny brush in my hand completely still and just wouldn't be able to do it, So that's the only painting in the show that is not really mostly from life. But I
So
did,
when
yeah.
can I ask you, Liz, do you make preparatory drawings or do you take any photographs when you're like working away from the site?
Well, only with this painting. And I made a collage, a very careful, exacting collage of a specific like proportion to the painting. So it was like 0.74. And then every dimension in the photo collage, I multiplied it to make it the right dimension in the painting and checked it. So it's kind of like one of my carpentry jobs where, in carpentry, measurement is extremely important. So if you're off by a 16th of an inch on a carpentry job, you could be in for some real trouble later. And so the same thing with like the windows and the fence height, the rock wall height, and the sidewalk. I had to move it up like 1.5 inches because it was off. And I did that because I wanted to make it truthful. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And you worked as a carpenter for a while then.
Um, I worked as a full-time carpenter for 35 years.
Wow.
So I went through an apprenticeship for 4 years in the Carpenters Union and then worked for another 5 as a union carpenter. And then I went into business for myself and I worked for myself for 26 years. And I
During
did
that
go to
time,
art
oh,
school.
sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. I did go to art school. So I worked 4 days a week when I went to community college. And when I went to the academy, I worked most weekends and every vacation and all summer. So I could afford to live, because it's hard to stop working and just go to art school.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, were you doing art through this time, or did you like decide to change your career? How did the two things like mingle?
Well, I mean, I I started doing art when I was about 19, and I sort of had a checkered beginning as a student. I went to Swarthmore College when I was 16, and I was very unhappy. I felt like I didn't know what I wanted to become, and I dropped out. And my parents were unhappy with me, and I, ended up working when I was 19 on pretty much full time. But I also went to night school. I went to the Art Students League at night, and then I went to Fleischer for like 25 years at night. And I learned a lot. And then I went to the Academy Continuing Education School, in 1998, and then I started going to community college in 2000. So it was like a continuous, and I did draw on Saturdays with the alumni drawing, and I kept I did landscapes in Manioc from my imagination, um, which were much more simple than these paintings are now. But I kept trying to find a way to be an artist,
Hmm.
a financial way to be an artist, and it was um, it was a necessary thing for me to try to be an artist. But I really needed to work, so I just kept working and tweaking the time. Like I'd work 4 days a week and end a job, and then I'd have a day off and I'd do art, and then I'd go back to work on Monday for a different customer. So I didn't hurt anything. I didn't hurt my jobs. So that was then, and I retired in 2015 and started being an artist full time. But so that was, I've been an artist for a very long time, but not full time, and not after going to art school until like 2008 is when I graduated from art school. So there was a lot of years where I was just doing my art without a lot of training.
Hmm.
So this painting I really like, and it's of the paperworks down on the Manioc Canal, and it's gone now. And while I was painting it, it was being demolished. And if you wanted to show that painting by Stanley Lewis now, he is
Oh,
one
yes.
of my
Okay.
inspirations. So
Okay.
I think I love his work. It's just so full of strength, and vitality and measurement and seeing. So I just thought he's an artist who I've always admired since I've known him, like 16 years or so. And I did hear a lecture of his at the College of Art and Design in Lancaster in 2012. And I think what I really admire and emulate is the careful laying out of geometry in space. And yet, if you look closely, you can see that everything is also flat. Everything relates as a flat abstraction. And it's also very intricate. So there's like an interweaving of parts that I find really exciting in this painting. So, like, my painting is done completely on site. If you wanted to go back to that paperworks painting, please. And let's see, paperworks painting okay. So the only thing that I did change is that those pink flowers faded, and then they actually popped up again later in another location. And I photographed them and put them in later because when I first painted them, they weren't good enough. And then like these yellow pipes, to me, they just hold the bottom of the composition really well. And they were there. They just happened to be there. I don't know why. The whole place was completely messy. This is a pile of trash, which changed. Sometimes people would come and get the scrap metal, and then the pile would get smaller. But I kind of kept this original composition because I like that triangle. And then these wires are the only thing I did in the studio because I couldn't do them. I really physically couldn't draw those fine lines on site. I just wouldn't do a good job. And everything changed, the trees changed, but you get a feel for what it's supposed to look like. So I did finish the painting, finally. Um, and it's gone now. They took it down. It's all gone. So this painting I did while occupying a residency with Larry. It was really fun. It was in Mashopin, PA, and it's the Susquehanna River Valley. There, there were these beautiful purplish hills far away, and then if you kept going down, you'd reach the river, the Susquehanna River, which is very curvy there. It goes around and around, sort of meanders through all these towns. And someone had built a luxury log house. That's what that house is. And the shapes to me were very beautiful of everything. This initial screen of kind of man planted um, weedy looking plants, and then this uh, tan grass that I thought was a beautiful beginning to the painting. And I have learned to mix bright colors from earth colors some, and I find that they can really glow and make the painting more unified. Like if you take white and yellow ochre or white and raw sienna, you'll get these really beautiful golden pale colors. And they work with the man-made greens that I'm using and the cadmium red in the little barn. And I think that adding the earth colors makes the whole painting have more sort of unity in a way. So that's kind of what I was working with, was unity, trying to get the whole thing to seem like one scene, even though it was pretty complicated. I'm happy with it. So this sculpture is made out of hydrostone with a casein patina, and that's that milk paint, and it's sort of a pinkish brown. And so I finished casting. This is Meredith, who's a great model, and I cast it, and then you put these layers of color on and then rub it. See how it's kind of shiny? That is all from the milk paint. And then it's called Meredith and Spirit Tree. And the tree is like, to me, it's like giving her strength. I made it from pieces of wood I had, mostly mahogany and cedar and some walnut, a little walnut and little fir. Uh, and I just kind of drew it and tried to make it up where her hand would rest on it, and she would have like a companion, a tree companion, um, to help her, kind of to make her life stronger. Not that she needed that, but just that I think we all need, sources of strength. And to me, trees give me that. So I just built her a tree kind of. So that's all. um, and if that's all the paintings, then I wanted to, show everyone the William Nicholson still life that I gave you. So to me, this painting is a wonderful inspiration. It has somewhat bright colors and a lot of darker colors and pale colors that aren't very saturated. and yet it has such joy in it and presence. And it's also a wonderful study in value. The dark surround and then that front border of brown give it kind of a tension. And then that glove, which he evidently really loved gloves, I read, and also like decorated them. The glove gives it like a feeling and also a way into the painting spatially. And then those blurry, sort of odd flowers around the edges of the arrangement kind of, they're like the supporting players. The painting is called The Black Pansy, and actually black pansies are rather rare. So it's, to me, it's a wonderful combination of muted color, bright color, and value contrasts, which I would like to emulate. There is one painting I wanted to focus on though in my show, but so one reason why I'm very proud of this painting is that the shapes I think are full of vitality and interest. So the shadow shape under the vase is strange. I mean, it looks like a mushroom or an atomic bomb cloud or what is it? But it actually was the shadow, and I kept looking at it and trying to figure it out. Why is it that shape? And add it into the composition. And then I also was trying to have a dark background similar to what some more traditional painters had, but I had a reddish blanket, so it was not a black background, but a dark reddish, blackish background. And then, I feel glad about the way the roses came out. And in the wintertime, the roses get darker. So it was about that, how the buds take on more color in the winter. Like as you go towards December, when they stop blooming, they get darker. And it's so wonderful. It's like the last call, of these wonderful flowers that bloom literally from March, late March, or mid-April to December. So I just think that's great. And I really enjoyed doing this painting and would like to do more with the dark background.
Well, Liz, thank you so much. It's a really wonderful show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Really
Yeah, we're
appreciate it.
really excited to have it here, have you here.
Thank you. I am too. Very grateful.
And the show is up through April 6th. We hope people come to see it. And everything's also available on our website, ceruleanarts.com. So thanks again, Liz, for being here and have a great night.
Thank you.